So, as an MLP fan, I'm sure a lot of people have been asking this question or throwing it around during conventions or get-togethers or whatever the case may be. And that question basically is, from a continuity standpoint for Friendship is Magic, was there any kind of connection between who are considered the three biggest pop stars in Equestria? That being Sapphire Shores, Countess Coloratura, and Songbird Serenade. And I think there is. And I have to give credit to Josh Scorcher, aka Firebrand, and Miss Anthropony doing the collab of the main attraction because of the fact that when, towards the end of the review, I should say, they kind of pointed to something out that might have been implied of exactly why there is a connection of some sorts. That connection is the manipulative pony known as Sim Gallop. Now you might say, well, we didn't get introduced to Sim Gallop until main attraction. How can there be a connection? Well, again, it's implied there might be a connection. Because at the end of, or towards the end of the review, Miss Anthropony asked exactly why Rara's status kind of faded into obscurity when Songbird Serenade came around, or at least it was implied, when Songbird Serenade debuted, why Rara was suddenly like pushed to the side. And the conclusion that they came up with was it was Swim Gallop. That Swim Gallop had basically found another pony to manipulate into doing what he wants, into being what he envisions them to be, to get the perks and stuff that he wants for himself. I know that sounded like a mouthful or a little bit of ramble-ish, but it's true. Because, again, I'll provide a link to the video at the end, if you will, at the end of this one. But basically, at the end of that collab video, it's implied from the conclusion that Map and Firebrand put together that Swim Gallop, after being dumped by Rara and vice versa, if you will, moved on, and as SilverQuill pointed out in his review, went all over Equestria, Las Pegasus, Cantalot, Ponyville, wherever, in search of his new star, and eventually he ended up finding her in what could be assumed as Songbird Serenade, or seen as Songbird Serenade, I should say. So there's that connection. But now you might ask, well, how does Sapphire Shores fit into this? Well, I think Sapphire Shores fits into this due to the fact that Swim Gallop probably at one time managed her. Because if you listen to what Pinky, or not listen, but if you hear how Pinky refers to Sapphire Shores in main attraction, she refers to Sapphire Shores as the second biggest pop star in Equestria. And this is literally right in front of Rarity, who is Sapphire Shores' fashionista, or fashioneer. Basically, she is Rarity's biggest client. And even when she debuted in the Dog and Pony Show of episode 1, basically Rarity referred to her as the Queen of Pop. And that's a pretty bold statement to make to somebody when you meet them in person for the first time. When you can basically consider them to be the Queen of Pop, you consider them to be a big deal. You consider them to be royalty, like the be-all, end-all, the greatest of all time. It's basically like how people look at Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, is looked at as the king of pop. Like nobody can do what he's done. And the same thing with Sapphire Shores in a sense. Rarity refers to her as the Queen of Pop, thus dubbing her as someone that no one else could pretty much surpass. And yet in main attraction, Pinky basically says that Sapphire is now second best compared to Countess Coloratura. But then when you move forward to the movie, you notice that Songbird Serenade pretty much has taken that status. Or has she? Because when we get to the Season 8 finale, basically Sambar indicates that Cozy Glow, before finding out who she really is and what she's really about, was giving away free tickets to a Sapphire Shores concert to every single student at the School of Friendship. And let's put it this way. Silverstream's reaction when Sandbar says that, I think pretty much tells the story that Sapphire Shore's in continuity has basically gone back to the top of the charts. Now, what that says for Songbird Serenade and Rara, that's another implied story for another time. But we would have to assume, again, there's a connection, and we would have to assume that maybe because Songbird Serenade has kind of gone to that number 2 spot, or maybe number 3, depending, that just like Sapphire Shores before her, and Rara before her as well, she got rid of Swim Gallop, if he is indeed the one. And again, look at SilverQuill's main attraction review, towards the end of it, to kind of get the clues and hints that he was indeed on the lookout for his next victim, if you will. You have to conclude that Songbird Serenade followed suit in dumping Swim Gallop after finding out the truth about him as well. In fact, if you want to take the movie into context, we could probably assume that he ran off for his life like a coward, leaving Songbird Serenade to be captured by the Storm King and his soldiers, if you will. So, yeah. The obvious big connection between the two from a continuity standpoint is not only are they looked at several times as the top 3 stars in Equestria, but mostly from an implied, in continuity implication, if you will. The connection they have is they all were once managed by Swim Gallop. And could I be wrong about that? Absolutely. But again, when you look at how things are projected, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder is exactly why one unknown pony's star rose above an established one just like that overnight, and then suddenly faded into obscurity once pretty much they saw the truth about the person that they considered at one point to be a friend, a confidant, and their on-road manager, their booker, if you will. But we'll have to just keep thinking and implying and kind of just looking at the possibilities of the situation of this all being connected. Now, is it true? Is it true in the long run that there is a connection? Maybe not. But it's fun to imply. It's fun to kind of look at all the hints and the clues thrown about. Again, you go back to SilverQuill's review, of main attraction, and how he points out that Swim Gallop was always seen in the background of every location, like Las Pegasus, Canterlot, Ponyville, potentially looking for his next manipulative victim to try to get what he wants, what he desires out of their talents that he would basically, I guess, enable to happen or enable to become a reality. So, in the long run, when you really think about it, is there a connection? Quite possibly, because again, the status of each character as a pop star kind of went back and forth, up and down. So you have to really think maybe that perhaps that continuity connection is Swim Gallop. Now, from a show continuity perspective, not just in story continuity connection, but from a show connection, like behind the scenes. When Sapphire Shores came around, basically Countess Coloratura and Songbird Serenade were not even considered to be existing. And when Countess Coloratura came into being through story, Songbird Serenade was being looked at as a consideration of some kind of big celebrity star they could bring in to voice a character that, won't probably have a big of a role in the movie, but just by name alone would attract people to go see it. So, when you think about it from a behind-the-scenes continuity standpoint, when you look at it that way, Sapphire Shores was the first, Countess Coloratura was the second, and Songbird Serenade was the third. That's how you look at it, just like you see it in the show. Now, if you look at it from a production standpoint as well and how long things take, you could kind of swap Songbird Serenade in place of Rara and all that. You could do that if you want to. But however you want to look at it from a behind-the-scenes standpoint, you know, it's Sapphire shorts that always came first. Then, you know, behind-the-scenes wise, it was either Rara, depending on how far they were in with the main attraction script, or Songbird Serenade, depending on how far they were in to bringing her on board as a character voiced by Sia. So the behind-the-scenes one is kind of like, when it comes to Songbird and Rara, it's kind of convoluted. But if you really want to look at it in a sense, like what was the quicker production, the quicker route that they went in establishing a character, bringing a character to the forefront, it's definitely Rara. And it would kind of tie into the in-story continuity and connection, you know, that each character has as being looked at as a rising star, a top star, or a star that's now like second or third best. So yeah, basically, you know, it's whatever you want to consider, however you want to imply the situation in your mind. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to come on here and bring that to your attention. Just, you know, talk about it unscripted, you know, because I know I sound like I rambled a little bit and went off a little bit. I do apologize. But I just wanted to bring that up. Like I said, unscripted. Get your thoughts on it. You know, what do you believe? What do you think overall? Do you think there is a connection? Do you think in story from an implied standpoint, especially when you look at the reviews by Firebrand and SilverQuill, that there is a connection somehow with the manipulative Sim Gallup being the manager of all three of them at one point? What is your thought? Comment down below. Give me your thoughts in the live chat during the premiere, and I will talk to y'all later.